Some bands saved your life. Some just melted your fucking face. Behind every riff, there's a riot. Every era, a war zone of sound, ego, and evolution. This is the true, unfiltered story of heavy music. Told one breakdown, one burnout, one bloody bass line at a time. Welcome to Headbangers History, the podcast where legends rise, posers fall, and nothing sacred survives. Oh boy, welcome back everybody. So, remember last week? Last week we gave you punk attitude and hair metal swagger, basement shows and backstage blowouts. But that was just the warm-up. Now we're going straight for the fucking jugular. This is the era where riffs got faster, the vocals got uglier, and the drums sounded like a tank rolling through a cemetery. Today, we're tearing through the birth of thrash and the rise of death metal, the two genres that took metal rules and set them ablaze. From the Bay Area to Tampa, from denim jackets to rotting corpses. Welcome to the part of the 80s that didn't get radio play, but it did build the underground for everything that came after. This is Headbangers History. I'm Fred Carroll, and today we're diving headfirst into the pit. In 1986, Metallica dropped Master of Puppets. And the world got heavy. Slayer's Rain and Blood was 29 minutes of pure sonic violence. And across the Bay Area, kids in denim vests were creating a new religion. No rules, no slow songs, no posers.
Poser ass bitch.
Meanwhile, MTV was showing Bon Jovi Dry Hump, a wind machine. This was thrash metal. It was loud. It was fast. Raging against every sanitized version of rock sold to America. So welcome to Headbangers Yearbook. Thrash metal, 1980 to 1989.
You sure you're ready, Mr. Thrash Metal?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes, 10 years.
4 horsemen. A 1,000 riffs.
Fucking riff, baby!
And not a single power ballad in sight. Well, maybe a few.
I had no idea what it cost. Oh, I hope it's a ballad. I'll see it shining every night.
It does still have a ballad tempo.
No, it doesn't.
No one will see us watch the bleed as it disappears.
Part 1, The Breeding Ground, 1980 to 1983. Thrash didn't show up clean. It came out of the womb screaming. You had the new wave of British heavy metal.
Can I see the reason for your feeling?
You know, Iron Maiden. Motorhead.
If you like to gamble, I tell you I'm your man. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me.
Diamond Head.
Steely eyes of a silvery people walk behind me with evil.
Mixing melody with aggression. But the kids in the States, they cranked the tempo and turned the anger up to 11. It started with punk. Dead Kennedys, Discharge, Black Flag, Speed, Chaos, DIY Fury. Now mash that with Sabbath riffs, Maiden gallops, and a Motorhead attitude. And what you get is thrash. Pure, filthy thrash.
You're disgusting. You're a disgusting human.
Some of the early landmarks: Metallica, No Life Till Leather in 1982. It's a demo tape that launched 10,000 bands. You had Exodus, Whipping Queen. Before Bonded by Blood, they were already cooking riffs into East Bay garages. Slayer Show No Mercy in 1983. Satanic Panic in riff form. Anthrax Fistful of Metal 1984.
Racing down the road in a street machine of steel. Give the jam and wow.
East Coast Speed with Punk Snare. So let's be real. These bands couldn't afford nice gear. They had hand-me-down amps, cheap tape decks, and a practice space that smelled like piss and weed. But they did have riffs, and they did have a hatred for anything fake. Here's a fun fact. Metallica's early shows had more fights than attendees, and Dave Mustaine got kicked out for being too much for Metallica. Just let that sink in. What is too much? Part 2, The Big Four and The Big Bang, 1984 to 1986. So thrash hit puberty around 1984. Suddenly it had muscles. And it wasn't just screaming anymore, it was leveling buildings. This is when the Big Four locked into place. Number 1, Metallica. Ride the Lightning in 84. Master of Puppets in 86. They went from DIY speed freaks to epic riff architects. Cliff Burton brought classical influence.
Are you ready to get your teeth pulled? Are you ready to do it, Cliff? Mr. Cliff Burton!
Wah pedals and denim-clad wizard energy. Fade to Black made purists twitch a little, but it proved thrash could evolve. But then tragedy hit.
There was also tragedy in rock this week. Metallica's bassist Cliff Burton was killed in a bus accident while the band was on tour in Sweden. He was 24.
For a band as intense as Metallica, the death of Cliff Burton felt like losing a family member. Their response, though, came more in anger than sorrow, as new bassist Jason Newsted was to discover.
You're all still slightly in shock, do you think, and sort of taking it out on the new bass player? Because, I mean, that was an amazingly difficult role for somebody to step into.
Yeah. There's no doubt that there was a lot of hazing and there was a lot of grief that turned into spite towards Jason. That is pretty human, I would say. So, again, when Cliff passed, you know, it was stuff the feelings, and a lot of it came from drinking, for sure. And the other part was just go play. That's our other drug. It really is. You know, the world goes away when we play. There can be no bad. It just feels good. We're connected. It goes away.
Cliff Burton died in a bus crash in 1986. Metallica was gutted, and the whole genre felt it. Number 2, Slayer. Hell Awaits, 1985. Rain and Blood, 1986. Produced by Rick Rubin. 28 minutes. No filler. No mercy. It was basically the Evil Dead of albums. Fast, bloody, and deeply influential. Tom Araya sounded like he was screaming from the gates of hell. Hanneman and Kerry King? Chainsaw riffing demons. Number 3, Megadeth. Dave Mustaine, of course banished from Metallica, was out for revenge. Angrier than a drunk guy at a Denny's. Killing Is My Business in 1985? It was sloppy, but savage. And Peace Sells, But Who's Buying in 86? Much sharper, more political, and a middle finger in album form. He didn't just want to compete with Metallica, he wanted to fucking crush them. And sometimes, he came dangerously close. Number 4, Anthrax. New York City's answer to the Bay Area chaos, spreading the disease in 1985. Among the Living in 87. Comic books, horror, hardcore, speed. Scott Ian's beard was already legendary. They mixed humor with heaviness, and somehow it worked. They made thrash fun, without making it soft, and that's a rare combo. So yeah, that was the thrash metal. This is what I grew up on. This fits right into my wheelhouse. I was there from the beginning. I was the weird kid on the bus with a Metallica patch jacket and a Metallica cassette player in my boombox. Look it up, you young motherfuckers that don't know what a boombox is. But yeah, I was that guy. And then 2 years later, everybody caught up to me. I'm not bragging. I'm just happy that I noticed this wave way before it happened. So yeah, it was fun. I was able to see Dave Mustaine with Metallica as a 12-year-old at a bar called the Keg House in New Haven, Connecticut. I was able to see Slayer with their full lineup at the Agora Ballroom in Hartford, Connecticut, and at somewhere in Brooklyn, L'Amour's in Brooklyn, with a band opening up for him that nobody heard of called Testament. But yeah, thrash metal pushed the speed. But death metal? This is where things got ugly. When thrash started to clean up, death metal showed up with a shovel and said, not so fast. Lower tunings, sicker vocals, filthier riffs. No makeup, no hooks, just rot riffs and real deal extremity. It's the late 80s, and metal's final evolution of the decade is crawling out of Florida, Sweden, and every dark basement that could afford reverb. So let's get into it. This is the rise of death metal. In 1985, Possessed dropped 7 churches. It wasn't thrash. It wasn't black metal. It was something else. Raw, chaotic, and corpse-stained. 2 years later, a band called Death rewrote the rules. And by 1989, the underground was vomiting up new horrors monthly. Welcome to Headbangers Yearbook. Death Metal, 1980 to 1989. So before blast beats, before pig squeals, before every logo looked like tree branches dipped in bile, there was just noise and rage, and bands trying to make thrash sound uglier. The roots of death metal weren't planted. They festered. They oozed. They mutated in basements and bedrooms with no adult supervision.
You load up, you party.
Venom set the tone with Welcome to Hell. In 1981, it was crude, satanic, no polish. It sounded like evil incarnate tripping over a drum kit. Hellhammer was the caveman blueprint. Riffs that barely counted as riffs, drums like collapsing drywall. In Slayer and Bathory,
What's it for? I am the Antichrist! That's what I'm meant to be! You got it!
picked up the torch and torched everything in sight. Then Creator. They sounded like they were being electrocuted through their own amps. But then came Possessed in 1985, and they dropped 7 churches. And they had the audacity to name a song death metal. Jeff Becerra's voice wasn't just aggressive. It was foaming. He didn't growl. He gargled hell. The riffs? Thrash, yes, but warped. Think a gremlin chewing on Slayer bootlegs in a swamp. All right! This wasn't just faster music. This was meaner, more grotesque, and the kids loved it. Meanwhile, down in Florida, which fittingly already smelled like a grave, a teenager named Chuck Schuldiner was up to something unholy. Chuck's band? Mantis. Yes, named after the Venom guitarist, because metal is incestuous, and proud of it. His early demos, Death by Metal, Reign of Terror, Live at the Playground.
Well, Chuck, I have to tell you that for all your reputation as being like the death metal guru, you're far too nice and too pleasant.
I wore my kitty shirt just to crush any misconceptions of death metalers being cruel to animals or anything. I'm an animal lover. And yeah, you know, people will probably be surprised if they met a lot of bands, you know, especially in this type of music, because everyone seems extreme and, you know, they put on this image, but, you know, I'm definitely whatever, trying to break that, you know.
Sounded like what would happen if you locked a skeleton in a garage with a 4-track. There's tracks like Evil Dead. Witch of Hell, and Legion of Doom. They started circulating on tape trading lists.
Scene. Basically, there was this scene of people all over the world who would trade copied cassettes with each other, which was technically piracy, I guess, but that wasn't really what it was all about. These people weren't trading copies of major label artists because they wanted to get free music. These were super fans of underground metal and punk, trading copies of obscure demos and 7-inches with the goal of just sharing the music and getting more people into the bands that they loved. It wasn't about getting free stuff, and the bands were also cool with it because it helped them reach a bigger audience.
And that was the secret weapon, tape trading. Before YouTube, before Bandcamp, there was the mail. A hand-labeled Maxell tape in an envelope.
The usual, sir. Please. Even after 500 plays, our high-fidelity tape still delivers high fidelity.
One fan sends it to another. That guy dubs 3 or 4 more, and so on. Death metal spread like rot. Fast, quiet, irreversible. In Canada, Slaughter and Blasphemy were trying to break sound barriers using nothing but feedback and hatred. In Michigan, Repulsion blended punk fury and horror movie lyrics into something nauseating and addictive. Massacre dropped their aggressive Tyrant demo in '86. And it tore through the underground like a chainsaw left running in a butcher shop. And then there was Necrophagia. Before Gore Grind, before Slam, there was Season of the Dead. 1987. and it was ugly. It was primitive. It was perfect. And that's my deep cut of the decade, Season of the Dead by Necrophagia. Think early horrorcore for maniacs, screamed vocals, buzzing guitars, lyrics straight out of Fulci films. A beautiful mess. If Slayer was a horror movie, early death metal was the snuff film. No one had good gear. No one had money. But they did have riffs, and they did have reverb, and they had a shit ton of rage. So by the mid-'80s, the riffs got faster, the vocals uglier, and one state became the breeding ground for the next level of sickness. Next, we go to Florida, where death metal caught fire. Part 2, the Florida Furnace. Welcome back to Headbangers Yearbook, death metal in 1980 to 1989. Let's head to Tampa, the Furnace. While LA was dyeing its hair and chasing record deals, Florida was melting speakers. Chuck Schuldiner came back from California, reformed Mantis into death, and sharpened the blade. In 1987, death dropped Scream Bloody Gore, and the landscape shifted. This wasn't just faster thrash. This was open throat, entrail dragging, no apology death. The vocals, they were pure sewer gas. The riffs that sounded like tombstones collapsing on themselves. That album felt illegal, like something you weren't supposed to be hearing. But it sold, and it sold fast. In Florida, went from swampy joke state to mecca of the macabre. Obituary, then known as Executioner, dropped raging death demos and cooked up Slowly We Rot. Kill my death. Morbid Angel was practicing satanic teleportation between time signatures. Atheist decided to play jazz, but evil. And Nocturnus added sci-fi keyboards. Yeah, it happened. Meanwhile, Deicide was tuning guitars and burning Bibles. Morris Sound Studios became the death metal bakery, and Scott Burns, he was the high priest of brutality. He produced almost everything, every drum hit, like a car crash inside a crypt. And it wasn't just Florida. New York got into the pit too. Immolation, straight up blasphemous density. Incantation, tremolo-picked chaos. Ripping Corpse with Eric Rudin before he joined Morbid Angel. The styles diverged. Florida equaled clarity, horror themes, groove riffs. New York equaled murk, hellfire, and cavern core madness. Even in Europe, ears started perking up. Carcass started smearing medical textbooks across grindcore. Bolt Thrower emerged from the war-scarred fog of the UK. And Pestilence in the Netherlands started experimenting with jazzy brutality. Here's a fun trivia break. Chuck Schuldiner played with Slaughter from Canada for 1 week in 1986. He hated it. He left and then formed the classic death lineup. Some of these demos sounded like they were recorded inside a microwave filled with blood. But that vibe, it was untouchable. Death metal was disgusting, but it was alive and fans were all in. By 1988, the underground wasn't underground anymore. It was an avalanche. Labels were finally watching. And in 1989, death metal detonated. But by 1989, death metal wasn't a scene. It was its own ecosystem. And it was fucking vicious. Obituary dropped Slowly We Rot. The album cover? Like someone threw a corpse into a Kmart photo booth. But the sound? Caveman groove meets morgue ambience. Morbid Angel unleashed Altars of Madness. Dave Vincent sounds like a demon impersonating a preacher. Sepultura joins the fray with Beneath the Remains. Brazil shows up and stomps necks. Brutal, tight, faster than your heart rate during Pestilence drops Consuming Impulse. The album cover looks like a fungal outbreak. The music sounds similar too. Bolt Thrower gives us Realm of Chaos. Warhammer Metal, down-tuned doom, tank with riffs. These weren't demos. These were albums. Full-length, studio mixed, professionally printed. But still brutal as hell. Meanwhile, new monsters rise. You got Nihilist in Sweden, soon to be entombed. Carcass levels up their gore. Napalm Death starts infecting death metal with grindcore speed. It's a perfect storm. In the media, still fucking clueless.
I'm completely clueless.
MTV, still showing Poison videos.
And give me something to believe in. That there's a Lord above.
Rolling Stone, we built the network themselves. Magazines like Metal Forces, Grind Crusher, Chainsaw Abortions, mail order distros run by high schoolers with typewriters. VHS bootlegs of shows taped from someone's cousin's camcorder. By the time the labels noticed, death metal already had its own world and its own rules. Death metal didn't crawl out of the grave in the 1990s. It was already feasting in the 80s. Ugly, unfiltered, unstoppable, and it was just getting started. What's the most underrated death metal record of the 80s? And who do you think really started it? This always is questionable. Was it Possessed? Was it Death? Was it Venom? Everybody has an opinion. What demo still haunts your playlist today? Do me a favor, drop your answers, raise your horns, because this was Headbangers Yearbook, Death Metal 1980 to 1989. Man, is that fun to do. I just love talking about music in general, but to talk to you guys is an absolute fucking honor. Because Thrash gave us the speed, death metal gave us sickness, and together they made the underground bulletproof. So if you made it through this episode, first off, respect. Now do me a favor, hit the Headbangers History YouTube channel, subscribe, share it with someone who thinks the Big Four ended with Metallica, and help me keep this machine running. The podcast lives on Apple and Spotify, but your support is what keeps it alive. Metal's not about scenes or subgenres, it's about volume, rebellion, community. Whether you're a denim vest purist or a blast beat freak, you're part of the history. So crank it, share it, scream about it, because I'll see you next week, regardless, on Headbangers History. I'm Fred Carroll. Stay heavy.